Good Thursday morning to you. I'm Wiley. And you're listening to another episode of the Wiley Report. This morning for our coffee thoughts, got my coffee here. I was reading online about, I think it's Loudon County. Hope I'm saying that right, but it's in Knoxville, Tennessee. Basically, they had a protest in the sense of parents were coming to the school board to express their concern about their children being taught critical race theory and how they had problems with that. It was reported on it was the Conscious Kid is had posted about it, and I can't remember the name of the reporter that's affiliated with PBS that was talking about it. And I guess for me, how it comes up is as a graduate student, we literally start this week reading Knowledge Justice. It's a book by Leon and Lopez McKnight, and it talks about disrupting library information science through critical race theory. And just what I want to say real quick, because first of all, I'm not a parent, so I can't speak from that level. But here's what I want to say to people. Excuse me, no one's teaching elementary kids about critical race theory. They wouldn't. They wouldn't teach them that. That's not what they're going to teach in elementary school. But I know there is this real idea, this real concern about, what people, teach their children in school, which I understand that because, you're a parent or you're just concerned about the overall, education needs of your children. I would assume and feel as a person that has been a teacher in adult education and a substitute teacher for years in the public school and coming from a family of teachers, I totally understand, the teaching background, the teacher's perspectives and wanting to and having parents that are teachers, so how they felt about, my own learning, that definitely parents want to be vested in knowing what their students learn and being concerned if the information that they learn aligns with their values and what they believe in their household. I've come from a family members that my parents were strict, and there's no nice way to say it. They were overbearing. That was who they were. That's just the way that they parent. My parents were helicopter parents. And I'm not judging it. I'm just saying that was their experience. I had friends that their parents were totally different. Because I bring that up because I remember growing up in school, it was it sex ed was being taught? Yeah, sex ed was being taught because I'm dating myself. I'm 43. Sex ed was being taught in, I think, science class, and my parents didn't want me to be in the class, and until they learned that I still had to do the lessons. So basically, I sat in another class and just did the worksheets. That's a whole nother show. We'll talk about that another time. But I mean, I bring that up because, parents want to know what their children are learning. Do they agree with the curriculum that's being taught, things of that nature. But critical race theory is not taught to elementary school kids. Yet there's this prevalent fear that it will be taught. But let's look real quick at what critical race theory is. I'm going to share my screen. Maybe you'll see this later. So basically, critical race theory in itself has been around since, I think, one of the in education, from, I think his name is Derek Bell. And critical race theory that we're studying in this book, Knowledge Justice, Disrupting Library Information Science through Critical Race Theory, they're using the definition that's provided by Frances Lee Ansley's definition. And when she states it, she says, I do not mean to allude only to the self-conscious racism of white supremacist hate groups. I refer to the political, economic, cultural system in which white control power and material resources, conscious and unconscious ideas of white superiority and entitlement are widespread, and relations of white dominance and non-white subordination are daily reenacted across a broad array of institutions and social settings. Nobody's teaching that in elementary school. Just saying, K through 12, they're not doing that. But what is, interesting to me is oftentimes there's this deep concern about the history of America and this idea, and I've said it before in a previous podcast, if you've listened to it, where I said, there's this idea that somehow if you tell the truth of what history is, that somehow that lessens the greatness, lessens whatever the positive type things that are associated with America. So it's kind of like when people are saying they don't like, the idea that America is a racist country. They don't even like to hear that, to say that people don't even want to, own that or sit in that. Because it is connected. It is connected to critical race theory, because it's connected to critical race theory because you would have to, or hope that America would address its past of the 1619 Project, of being a country that enslaved peoples. Yet the problem with America is often that it has never addressed that, ever. It has never addressed slavery. It has never addressed structural systemic racism. It has never talked about that. What we have done is we create diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and talk about how we're going to invite everybody to the table. And I'm not saying that you should invite everybody to the table, but if you haven't looked at the root underlying issues, looked at the policies that you're creating, and why do you keep creating these things with the idea that you're going to exclude over and over again, and you've never addressed that, then yeah, you're not really moving forward. And you do have this belief that they're going to teach that to schools because people definitely only want this light of America that is only in the best light, that only talks about the good. But let's be real, in life, more than good happens to everyday people. It isn't just the excellence, it isn't just the great things about our individual lives. It's the horrors that we face, it's the tragedies that we face, it's the fact that we triumph, or I'm not sure if everybody triumphs or even if people call it that, but it's the whole picture of the journey of who we are in our life. That's the same thing with history. It's all of it. It's not just the things we want to say. It's almost like when you think about people and how they don't want the truth to get out, because I don't know what it is that they fear that it will mean about them. I really don't. I mean, I do know that they fear that, that some of the truths that they've been telling really won't be true. But, nevertheless, you still have to face it, face all of your life, face all of the history. When we look at people and who we are, just individually, we've done great things, and we've done terrible things. Terrible things have been done to us. We've triumphed, we failed, we've kept going, we've been uncertain. It's the whole picture. So I think that, like history, is needed to be discussed and needed to be taught and shared. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say you share that in elementary school under the guise of critical race theory, but you can be honest about history in a class in teaching, that people in America had different experiences. Yet I know, that's a concern, but it's still true. I don't know curriculum in elementary school, but I'm just saying, when you look at history as a whole, it isn't just the good things, it's just the only things that you want to highlight. It's the whole period, the whole process. Because think about that in terms of social media. One of the reasons people like social media so much is that it connects people. It's the fact that the connectivity, the fact that you can have a broad reach. Somebody in Georgia can connect with somebody in California, somebody in Georgia or London, or some other other area can connect Nigeria, or wherever you are around the world. You can be connected socially on the internet, to do business, to have relationships, to have friendships, to support and encourage and uplift each other. Businesses, people sell things. There's all of this going on the internet. Yet the downside of that, in my opinion, is that oftentimes when we look at people, we're only seeing the highlights, or just we're only seeing the images that they project to us. We don't necessarily see the full story, the full reality of what their day is. We just see snapshots. And we often make these narratives of how their life is, when all we know is them socially. We might not even really know them in real life. History, in my opinion, is like that. When we only focus on the parts that we're interested in focusing on, or the parts that are good to us, we miss the lesson. We miss the story. We miss whatever it is that we're supposed to get out of it. That's all I have today. Coffee thoughts. I'll post this later. But I was just thinking about that, at boot camp today for my fellowship. But just wanted to come in because I saw that and I said, that is fascinating. I have to say, I'm not against people protesting and being concerned about, what their kids learn, but they're not learning critical race theory in elementary school. No one's teaching your child that. They're not. Yet it's also true that you might need to share with your children that the whole picture of history. Just saying, whenever you get time. All right, that's all I got. Bye.